Page 181. Page 182. Page 183. Page 184. Page 185. Page 186. Page 187. Page 188. Page 189. Page 190. Page 191. Page 192. Page 193. Page 194. Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing Kogi East. I rise to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14th July 2020 be adopted. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Christopher Stephen Eppel.
Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Christopher Ekpenya, representing the good people of Akwa Ibom Northwest, in Akwa Ibom State. I rise to second the motion on the adoption of votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14 July 2020 as moved by my colleague. I so move.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14th July 2020 be approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14th July 2020 is hereby approved. Petitions. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Donkey Export and Killing Prohibition Bill 2020.
Point of order, Senator Ibrahim Gobir.
I come under order 42 and 52, sir.
You may read.
Referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Not more than one such motion may be made at the same time. 52. Order 52, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general consent of the senators present. Your Excellency.
Now give us a synopsis.
It's on the issue of barrier that is currently placed or in place, on age for employment. You find that somebody will finish his university at the age of 25. He will finish the NYSC and then he will be now 26. Then it will take him 10 to 15 years to get employment. But at the time of seeing future for getting employment, all of a sudden again, they will tell him that he is over age. So that's why we want a review of that age to make sure that at least people are employed, so that we can reduce the problem of insecurity in the country, because that is also adds to the security problem we have.
Thank you very much. Because you have come under orders 42 and 52, I would have to put the question for the leave of our colleagues. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we allow our colleague Senator Ibrahim Abdullah Gobir to present his motion now, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may present your motion, please.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. The motion goes like this. Urgent need to review age barrier for job seekers during recruitment and employment exercises. The Senate notes with concern that recruitment requirements of MDAs and the private bodies which set age barriers that inadvertently excludes and marginalizes skillful and competent prospective applicants from participating in such exercises. Aware that due to the higher unemployment rate in the country, many graduates spend up to 10 years or more seeking employment, and this puts them in a disadvantaged position by no fault of theirs. Further aware that many individuals resort to falsifying their age, all in a bid to fall within the required age limit for them to be gainfully employed. Deeply concerned that the development where a person believes he is unemployable can lead them to embracing criminal activities and further increase the growing crime rate and the insecurity in the country. The Senate therefore resolves to urge the federal government to direct the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity to set up a committee to review this age limit with a view to getting this problem of age barrier sorted out to allow the teeming skilled and competent applicants to be employed by the MDAs and private sector. I so move, Your Excellency.
Senator Bala Ibn Allah, you are welcome back.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. I think the Senator Gobir's motion is apt and timely. But I think the legal basis for the Senate to proceed on that request lies in the fact that as an institution, we must take judicial notice of the fact that federal government on its own placed embargo on employment for over 13 years now. So that period that there had been embargo on employment by the federal government itself should be what we should consider in the review of the age limit. For example, if the age limit is 23, we must now add the 13 or 14 years of embargo on employment to the age already earmarked for employment, so that the age will now be 23 plus 13. Because it is the government on its own that placed embargo on employment. So there cannot be justification for you to place embargo on employment and then at the same time expect graduates to remain at the age at which they are during the period for the embargo. So I think in the review, that has to be taken into account, and therefore the age limit can now be raised in addition to the established 23 or whatever, to add the additional years that government has placed embargo on employment. That should be the legal basis for the review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. This motion has only one prayer, and we'll go to the prayer now. Urge the federal government to direct the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity to set up a committee to review this age limit with a view to getting this problem of age barrier sorted out, to allow the teeming, skilled and competent applicants to be employed by the MDS. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Senator Abraham Gobir, and I agree with you completely. Not through a fault of theirs. People are discriminated. They will tell you only 30 years limit. Meanwhile, someone has graduated maybe 10 years ago. So this is a very good motion, and urging the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity to swing into action immediately. Point of order, Senator Patrick Ifeanyuba.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to come through Order 43.
You may read.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought.
You can go ahead.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to make a personal explanation on the rumors, pseudo-online publications that I, Senator Ifeanyuba, once in one of the committees of the Senate, went against a proposal, I'm sure, the Senate Committee on Transport, to buy vehicles from a brother company, a member of my constituent, and one of the strong members that brought me to this Senate. I felt it's a blackmail to impugn my character and to also explain to this chamber that at no time was I involved in such thing. I'm not a member of Senate Committee on Transport. I'm not a member of Senate Committee on Senate Services and Appropriation. And I wish to use this medium, Mr. President, to tell Nigerians that I'm one of the biggest promoters of innocent vehicle brands and products. Having bought over 25 vehicles, and I'm sure I may be the biggest patronizer of innocent brands in the whole of this country, privately. So, Mr. President, I want to use this opportunity to clear this statement before Nigerians, or this rumor flying around, and also to urge the Senate to continue patronizing innocent vehicles and any other brand in order to promote our local industries. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Patrick Ifeanyiwa, Leader of the Senate. Senator Balanala, please leave Sumata Demo alone. Social distancing.
Senator Adeyemi should leave Senator Nala alone. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill in my name on the Donkey Export and Killing Prohibition Bill 2020. Mr. President, we may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Donkey Export and Killing Prohibition Bill 2020, HB 108, first reading.
Donkey Export and Killing Prohibition Bill 2020, HB 108, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Biodun Olujimi on the Nigeria Hunters Group Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Hunters Group Establishment Bill 2020, SB 249, first reading.
Nigerian Hunters Group Establishment Bill 2020, SB 249, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Muhammad Sani Musa on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2003 Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2003 Amendment Bill 2020, SB 474, first reading.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2003 Amendment Bill 2020, SB 474, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Tella Odua on the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, CAP N3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you might wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, CAP N3, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 478, first reading.
National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, CAP N3 LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2020, SB 478, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Samuel Ebu on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 479, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020 SB 479, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the need to integrate Almajiri education into modern system of education in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, Chairman of the committee, to meet the portion for the Senate to receive the report.
Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, represented by Senator Kawai.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Akonyani, representing Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District. I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the need to integrate Almajiri education into modern system of education in Nigeria. I so move.
I need a second. Senator Francis Ademba, Father Osi.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I like to support the motion moved by my able Senator Akon from South. I show more support.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that extra journey. Well, distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives the report of its Committee on Basic Education, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Army on the Nigerian Army University Bill Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ali Ndume, here represented by distinguished Senator Patrick Abomoro, his deputy, to move a motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Distinguished Senator Comrade Patrick Abomoro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Abomoro, representing the very good people of the Benue South Senatorial District and Vice Chairman of the Senate Committee on Army. Mr. President, may I have your leave to move a motion to present the report of the Committee on Nigerian Army on a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Army University Bill and to make comprehensive provisions for its management, administration, and other related matters, SB 332.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo, JP. Okay, CON.
Mr. Senate President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator George Thompson Sekibo, Rivers East, CON. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Army on the Nigerian Army University Bill, Electoral Bill. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we receive the report of our committee on army, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished Abomoro, may I lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Finance on the 2020 budget of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Solomon Olamilekan Adeola to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report of the committee.
Distinguished Senator Adeola Solomon Olamilekan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekan, representing Lagos West Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I hereby move that the Senate do receive the report of the Senate Committee on Finance on the report of the 2020 budget of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I so move.
Distinguished Senator Danjumala, can you second, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I rise to second this motion raised by Solomon.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we receive and consider the report of our Committee on Finance, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report, please. Chairman, present the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekan, Lagos West Senatorial District. The report of the 2020 budget of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Mr. President, page 1 of the report is the introduction, which said that the amended MTEF FSP 2020-2022 passed by the National Assembly approved the sum of 168,809 billion, representing the 4% cost of collection available to FRS to fund its operation during the financial year 2020. Section 15A of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act 2007 provide that the percentage as determined by the National Assembly of non-oil and gas revenue collected by the service may be appropriated by the National Assembly for the capital and recorded expenditure of the service. The sum of 168 billion naira is appropriated by the committee and hereby submitted to the Senate for consideration. 2.0 is the membership. The budget hearing session, which was conducted with the presence of the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, we briefed the committee about the budget and other sundry matters as contained in the document and beyond. 3.0, which is the page 3 of the document, contain the 2020-19 budget performance, which clearly states the total amount that was appropriated in 2019, which is 146,540,559,820, with the actual receipt put at 116,207,306,878 naira. The summary of the approved budget expenditure for personnel, overhead, and capital is clearly stated in page 5 of the report, while page 6 contains the breakdown of the summary figure, which contains the personnel cost, which is clearly stated, while page 7 also contains the breakdown of all expenditure incurred on the overhead for 2019, and that goes to the capital expenditure, which is also contained, the breakdown of which is contained in the document. From there, we go to page 6, which gives the highlight of the 2020 budget under the policy assumption underlying the 2020 FIRS budget, which contain all the tax specifics, the general principle upon which the budget is predicated upon, all the taxes that are collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Services for 2019 and also repeated in 2020. The assumption underlying the personnel cost estimate of the Federal Inland Revenue Services with the nominal payroll currently stand at 10,750 staff of the board. We also have the recurrent overhead estimate assumptions upon which the 2020 budget of the FRS is predicated upon. From there, we also have the capital assumption for their 2020 budget expenditure, including all other sundry expenses of the board. Also contained in page 18 of the report, we have the breakdown of the revenue estimate for the year 2020, how they arrived at the sum of 168 billion naira, which was appropriated by the National Assembly in the amended medium-term expenditure and fiscal strategy paper. Also contained is the summary of the 2020 FIRS budget as contained in page 19 of the report. I will from here move to the observation of the committee while considering their report. Mr. President, that is 5.0 and it's on page 20 of the report. It was noticed that the 2020 FIRS budget was prepared on a zero-based budgeting approach. 2, the net available fund to FIRS for the fiscal year 2020 estimate is the sum of 168,809, cost of collection representing 15.2% over and above 146.546 approved during the preceding year by the National Assembly. The committee also noted an upward growth rate in terms of staff strength, which moved from about 5,000 in 2007 to 9,000 in 2019, and now 10,750, not 10,700, 10,750 in 2020. The committee also noted the absence of technology as a challenge to the service core tax processes such as data collection, data assessment, and collection of which are critical to the service are often challenged in court due to lack of relevant provision in the tax law. The committee observed that the FIRS operate below the line account used for tax refund and support for the construction of the head office, the breakdown of which is also attached in the report. The committee observed that historically, the budget spill over to following year. Consequently, FIRS has been indifferent to the timing for the approach for their budget process. The committee frowned at the unnecessary delay in submitting the budget for 2020. However, the current executive chairman explained that he took over the leadership of FIRS in November-December 2019, and the budget for 2020 was not ready as at then. This, coupled with the process of taking over as well as the outbreak of the COVID-19, were responsible for the delay. The committee observed that the service requested a special intervention of 100 billion, the breakdown which is also attached. Now, recommendation. The committee recommends, 1, to the Senate that a total expenditure of 168,809,476,220 be approved for the service to fund the process personnel, overhead, and capital expenditure cost of the service during the 2020 fiscal year. 2, the committee recommends the digitalization of the process in the administration of the tax in FIRS so as to catch up with the rapid increase in economic activities most often carried out online without physical presence. The committee also recommended that FIRS Establishment Act and other tax law be amended to make it possible for the service to modernize its operation with relevant technology. 4, the committee recommends that all amount accruing to the below the line account, which is not part of this budget, must be approved by the Committee of Finance of the National Assembly before expenditure are made from that account. Consequently, all below the line account accruing to the service in this year must be approved by the National Assembly. The committee recommends that the budget for the financial year must terminate on 31st December 2020, and this must be maintained to ensure the adherence to the January to December financial year. 6, the committee recommends that henceforth the budget of FIRS for any financial year must be approved by the Senate by the end of October of the preceding year. This is to ensure strict compliance with the January to December financial year. 7, the committee recommends the need for the service to have an intervention fund and hereby recommend the Senate to approve the one-off special purpose fund of the sum of 100 billion, and this fund will expressly assist the service in its immediate but pressing the need, such as completion of the FIRS head office building complex within 12 months, 6 training schools, 30 prototype tax office, purpose-built facility for efficient tax of upstream petroleum industry, and the ICT infrastructure to identify and track digital transactions. Breakdown of this special intervention fund is also listed below. The committee wishes to thank the entire Senate and entire members of the committee for the job well done. Thank you, Mr. President. Attached is the budget for 2020 for the consideration of the Senate. I so submit.
Comments, Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. In supporting this presentation, Mr. President, I want to state that federal revenue is increasingly becoming a major revenue driver for the economy. The new executive chairman, upon assumption of duties, has been able to come up with various initiatives to block the leakages that hitherto existed within the system. He has also, with his team, been able to come up with various initiatives that I will call a win-win situation between the taxpayers and federal revenue, He has been able to come up with initiatives to encourage taxpayers to pay taxes, and he has been able to give concessions where necessary to taxpayers to encourage them. So it is a win-win situation between FIRS and the taxpayers. The new management too has also been able to come up with various initiatives to encourage staff for optimal performance, with various forms of compensations. That I also believe is highly commendable, and some of these details are there in the presentation. Finally, the issue of the intervention fund. It is very important because there are some perennial problems that have continued to bedevil the operations of FIRS over the years. That intervention fund is supposed to address those perennial problems so that FIRS can move forward. On this note, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I wish to support the approval of the budget and also the approval of the intervention fund as presented. Thank you very much.
Senator Gabriel Suswan.
Mr. President, my name is Dr. Gabriel Suswan, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, I stand to join other colleagues in supporting this presentation by the Chairman Committee on Finance. Mr. President, I have watched the activities of the Federal Inland Revenue since the assumption of the new MD. Mr. President, you can see a gentleman who is very committed in making sure that in spite of the contraction of the economy, that efforts are put in place for Federal Inland Revenue to raise enough money at least to finance the subsequent budget, 2021 onwards. I've seen him engage in advocacy activities to raise money from the stamp duty, which we had discussed here before. And so, Mr. President, the money that he's requesting for in order to enhance the activities of this agency Mr. President, it does appear the enemies are after my contribution. Mr. President, I think we should encourage the new chairman of this agency so that he will help in raising more money for budget implementation. And so there's nothing much that we can say. The Committee on Finance have done a good job, articulated it very well, and the items are listed which are straightforward. And so I think this Senate should go ahead and pass the request as put forward by the chairman of the committee.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo, JPCON.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo, Rivers East. Mr. President, I rise to support the adoption of the report to the Committee on Finance. It is very precise, properly laid out. Issues that were not known yet were exposed to us. But my emphasis will be on recommendation 7. If you don't feed the goose that lays the golden egg properly, there will be a point in time it cannot lay egg again. FRS is doing very well. We are all observing it, especially at this critical period. If they need any working material, we should encourage them and approve it for them so that they can standardize the operations and get whatever equipment they are looking for to give all the services we are expecting from them. I will also comment seriously on recommendation 2, The entire world is going digital. So I completely agree that they must digitalize all the processes in the administration of tax in their setup, so that no one will be going to other stand on a queue. You can pay your money from wherever and get your receipt or acknowledgement wherever you are. We must encourage them to do it. Like Senator Gabriel said, there's not much to talk because it's a very standard recommendation and everything is done very well. But I have one observation to ask the chairman, just to clarify. It is on figures. If you look at page 3, revenue estimate for 2019, and then if you look at the actual expenditure, there are figures here on page 4. 146 billion as the approved budget, and the expenditure 116 billion. If you go to page 5, which have a real summary of it, you have 146, which is the same figure, but you have 113 less 2.9 billion. Is it a difference in calculation or what? It's not very clear. Thank you, Mr. President. Just to clarify.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Senator Geshambas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gashambasi, Cross River South. Mr. President, I want to add my voice and also commend the Committee on Finance and particularly the chairman for a job well done. This is a very extremely thorough report and it covers all the issues. I think that the FIRS under the new leadership is a focused leadership and a level-headed leadership. And we believe that this new management in the FIRS will deliver the, what we need from an inland and from an FIRS. So I just want to add my voice to say that I want to recommend that this report is approved in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you very much, Senator Barojo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Baroji Brain Ababekano. Mr. President, let me join others to commend the Committee on Finance for a job well done, particularly the chairman and his vice. They've done a wonderful job. And it's a fact that FIRS has a new man at his, who is the chairman now. And we know that he has a burning desire to turn things around in this very, very important agency. This is it's a fact. We've had him being interviewed and his interaction with the Committee on Finance. He made that very, very clear. Has been making that very clear to all and sundry. But I think we need to be very careful. I don't want him to be put on the spot at the end of 2020. And I know the Committee on Finance deliberately allow things to remain the way he brought so as to push him very hard to realize more money for the country. And that's why the committee decided to keep quiet. But because I know the man has a burning desire to deliver, we should exercise some, he has to be careful, we have to be very careful so that we will not be put on the spot at the end of the year. Mr. President, I'm saying this because when you look at the gas income projection, last year nothing was realized. But this year, he is saying he will be able to make about 400-something billion this year. So I think it's a tall order, but I think he will be able to make it. Not only that, the company income tax, 24 was gotten last year, but he's making a projection that he's going to realize 202 billion, despite the situation, the economic situation we are currently in. So also, education tax. 223 last year, and he's saying he's going to realize 377 billion this year. And we also have personal income tax, 79 billion, but he's saying he's going to realize 116 billion. And you have technology levy, 15 billion, but this year he's saying he's going to realize 16 billion. So many projections that I think is going to be a bit difficult. But I know, as I said earlier, that the Finance Committee wants to push him hard. So, but I think he has the passion and the desire to deliver. So, all I will say here is that he should work very hard so that he will not be put on the spot at the end of 2020. But I want to commend the chairman. He's a very good man, very working hard to make sure that he turns it around, and we'll pray for him and we'll give him all support that he needs to deliver.
Senator Francis Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Francis Adenora from Osusa, East, Southwest. Mr. President, I support the new management of Federal Inland Revenue and my brother's effort, the chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, effort to improve our revenue base in the country. Mr. President, why I'm commending them is, one, we are having problem of financing our projects, our budget every year by going out to borrow. But with the serious-minded management put in place now, and the effort of the Senate Committee on Finance, then there's a hope that we will not be able to borrow too much again. Mr. President, when you see a serious-minded revenue agency will not be living in a rented apartment, massive rented apartment. But this new management has embarked on a permanent headquarters that the whole world will know that this is the revenue house. And that if you look at the last page, you will see the breakdown of the Special Intervention Fund, which the Revenue Board is seeking for. You will see that the management is so serious about it that revenue will come in, not to be expended again on rent. The revenue was on the project of the headquarters is about 46 billion, which is something that we accommodate almost half of the management and the office. The innovation is about the training schools, training all Nigerians on this area. You see 30 prototype tax operation office and the ICT colleges. Automatically, one will know that at least with this thing put in place, the revenue base of Nigeria will be solid and will be improved. With this and all others, I stand to support the initiative of this particular scheme and the budget. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, let's go to the recommendations, please. Let's go to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, on page 22. Recommendation 1 on page 22. The committee recommends to the Senate that a total expenditure of 168,809,476,220 naira be approved for the service to fund the proposed personnel, overhead, and capital expenditure costs of the service during the 2020 fiscal year. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2. The committee recommends the digitalization of all processes in the administration of tax in FIRS so as to catch up with rapidly increasing economic activities most often carried out online without physical presence. Those in favor of recommendation 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 3. It is recommended that FRS Establishment Act and other tax laws be amended to make it possible for the service to modernize its operations with the relevant technology. Chairman, this one, who is going to do it? Is it not you?
Mr. President, yes, is all that is going to do it, but in the submission of the chairman, these are aspects of the tax law that he needs urgently to be worked upon. That waiting for finance bill to come alongside with the budget might be taking more time. So now along the line, we decided to put it as part of the recommendation so that the Senate can give its approval for us to come in.
Those in favor of recommendation 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes. Recommendation 4. The committee recommends that all amounts accruing into below the line account, which is not part of the budget, must be approved by the Committee on Finance of the National Assembly before expenditures are made from the account. Consequently, all below the account accruing to the service in this year must be approved by the National Assembly. What does that mean?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we discovered that there are some funds that comes to the service which ordinarily does not form part of the budget, and it is always treated as a below-the-line account. I understand, for instance, every financial year, the budget will pass here. There is a certain amount of money that is given to the service for tax reform. Like this year, we gave them 25 billion naira. That money is not part of their budget. It comes to them and it is treated as below the line account. Also, there are some accrued revenue which belongs to the service, which doesn't come to them directly, but also come at the end of every financial year. It's equally treated as below the, and it has been done like that in the past. So we now discover that if we continue to go like this, we treat one budget above the line, and the one happening below the line, we are not aware of. We now said, okay, going forward, all account of this magnitude that comes to you, that is treated below the line account, must be approved by the National Assembly before any expenditure is defrayed from that particular account. That was why we have brought it up.
I have a problem with the way it's couched here, because on one breath, you say must be approved by the Committee on Finance of the National Assembly. I think we should remove the committee. It should be by the National Assembly, not the committee. So who will amend it? Okay, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. I amend recommendation 4 to read as follows. The committee recommends that all amounts accruing into the below the line account, which is not part of the budget, must be approved by the National Assembly before expenditure are made from the account. Consequently, all below the line accounts accruing to the service in this year must be approved by the National Assembly. I so move.
Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing Kogi East. I rise to second the amendment of recommendation 4 as read.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of recommendation 4 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 5, the committee recommends that the budget for this financial year must terminate on December 31st, 2020. This must be maintained to ensure adherence to the January to December financial year. Those in favor of recommendation 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 6, the committee recommends that henceforth the budget of FRS for any financial year must be approved by the Senate by the end of October of the preceding year. This to ensure strict compliance with the January to December financial year. I think two things here. First, I don't know whether it is appropriate to use the word must be approved by the Senate, and whether it is National Assembly rather than the Senate. National Assembly, I think, is better. What about the must? I don't know, the lawyers are here. Okay, someone should propose the amendment.
The approval should be in line with the January to December. I thought this is in line with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So we should make reference to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which requires that these things be done in this manner, rather than just saying January to December.
So there are so many amendments here. Who is going to encapsulate everything in one breath? Okay, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. That is recommendation 6. Yes, the committee recommends that henceforth, the budget of FIRS for any financial year must be approved, shall be approved by the National Assembly by the end of October of the preceding year, in line with the provisions of the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Okay, those in favor of recommendation 6 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And, oh, sorry, I need a seconder. Senator Abubakar Kyari, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Abubakar Kyari, Borno North. I rise to second the motion moved by the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you very much. Maybe I was moved by Senator Alera's suggestion in the closed session. Well, those in favor of recommendation 6 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 7, the committee recommends the need for the service to have an intervention fund, and hereby recommends to the Senate the approval of one-off special purpose fund to the tune of 100 billion naira only. This fund will expressly assist the service fund is immediate but pressing needs, such as completion of the FRS head office building complex within 12 months, 6 training schools, 30 prototype tax operations office, purpose-built facilities for efficient taxation of upstream petroleum industry, and ICT infrastructure to identify and track digital transactions. Those in favor of recommendation 7, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Committee on Finance, and the members of the Committee on Finance for this very good report. And I also want to commend the new management of the Federal Revenue Service for the efforts they are making to reform the service for better, effective, and more efficient performance. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman for appointment as a resident electoral commissioner representing Osun State in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Kabiru Gaya, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Kabiru Gaya.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Kabiru Gaya, represent the people of Kano South from Kano State. Mr. President, I would like to move the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the confirmation and appointment of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman, representing Osun State as Resident Electoral Commissioner, REC of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Binosia Rodora, can you second, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission be laid and considered. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we receive and consider the report of our Committee on INEC say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may present the report, please. You may present the report now.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I would like to read the report of the committee. That the Senate, in a sitting on Tuesday, 7th July 2020, deliberated on the request by President Muhammad Buhari, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the confirmation of the nomination appointment as State President Electoral Commissioner Reg of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And in its wisdom, the Senate referred same to this committee via the referral letter dated 8th July 2020 for further legislative action. The confirmation of nomination for appointment of the nominee as State Resident Electoral Commissioner Reg is in accordance with paragraph 14, subparagraph 3 of the part 1 of third schedule to the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. To this was further made pursuant to the provision of section 1531F and section 1541 of the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Mr. President, for the avoidance of that, section 154 provides as follows. Except in case of ex-officio members or where other provisions are made in this Constitution, the chairman members of any of the bodies so established, the subject provision of this Constitution, be appointed by the President, and the appointment shall be subject to confirmation by the Senate. The name of the nominee is Dr. Tella Adenora, Rec, Ocean State. In furtherance of this legislative mandate, the committee requested for and received the curriculum vitae, code of conduct, asset declaration slips, and other relevant documents of the nominee. I invited him to appear before the members for screening. The nominee appeared before the committee on Wednesday, 8th July 2020, and was screened accordingly as follows. The committee interviewed the nominee and received explanations regarding his personal life, work experiences, suitability, competence, and integrity for appointment as Resident Electoral Commissioner Reg, representing Ocean State. The background, I may not go into too much detail, that the man has obtained a national diploma, BSc in Business Administration, MSc in Banking and Finance, while PhD in Management Science from Ladoke Akintola University of Technology of Ogomosho. He has his working experience from page 3 to 5. I will go straight to a response. In response to questions put to him by the committee, Dr. Tella Adenora demonstrated a high level of competence in electoral matters and accounting. Having studied the nominee's curriculum vitae and as well as exhaustive instruction and deliberation, members were satisfied with his wealth of experience and found him suitable for confirmation as Resident Electoral Commissioner Reg. After the screening exercise, members of the committee deliberated on the nominee's suitability for confirmation of nomination for appointment as Resident Electoral Commissioner Reg, and hereby made the following observations or findings. That there is no petition or any incriminatory report received against the nominee. General observation made about the nominees are as follows. That the nominee has satisfied the requirement of paragraph 14 of subparagraph 3,
Part 1 of Start Schedule as contained in the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and also Order 119 and 121 of the Senate Standing Orders 2015 as amended. For the avoidance of doubt, Mr. President, the paragraph 14, subparagraph 3, part 1 of the Start Schedule provides that the Independent National Electoral Commission shall comprise of the following members. There shall be one from each state of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as resident electoral commissioners, who shall be approved by the President subject to confirmation by the Senate, B, be a person of unquestionable integrity and shall not be a member of any political party, and 3, not less than 35 years of age, and that the nominee, Dr. Tella Adenora possess the requisite leadership qualities with the capacity to hold the office of Resident Electoral Commissioner. Committee's recommendation: having studied the nominee's curriculum vitae and other relevant documents exhaustively, interaction and deliberation with him, in addition to his integrity, committee members unanimously resolved that Dr. Tella Adenora has satisfied the requirement of the Constitution and found to be fit and proper person for appointment as Resident Electoral Commissioner. Finally, recommendation: after carefully scrutinizing all the relevant documents of the nominee and due consideration of his level of exposure, experience, performance, qualification, and integrity, Mr. President, this committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Dr. Tella Adenora as Resident Electoral Commissioner. Your Excellency, my distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the members of this committee and myself, I wish most sincerely thank President of the Senate, His Excellency Senator Dr. Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, PhD, CON, and all principal officers, and indeed the entire distinguished members of this hallowed chamber for giving us the opportunity to serve in this regard. May Almighty Allah bless us all. Amen.
Thank you. Chairman, I don't know whether it's a mix-up. Let's go back to page 3. Page 3. Line 4. In 2014, he obtained a BSc in Business Management from Joseph Ayo Babalola University, had his Master's MSc in Banking and Finance from the University of Ibadan in 2008. He had his Master's in Banking and Finance in 2008, and he had his BSc in Business Management in 2014.
The dates are reversed by the typing error. I didn't read through.
Maybe it's a mix-up.
Point of order.
Point of order, Leader of the Senate.
Reluctantly, though, to move that we suspend our Order 13 in order to continue with our deliberations to 30 logical conclusions. I so move.
Minority Leader.
I join the Senate Leader to reluctantly. Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, I will put the question reluctantly. But let me say that we are only taking the reports. All other things will be stood down. So we are only taking our reports. After the reports, we suspend, we go on adjournment. So those in favor of the motion that we suspend our Order 13 in order to sit beyond 2 p.m., say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, so let's correct this thing because it is going into our records, and definitely there is a misplacement of the dates. He couldn't have obtained his master's in 2008 and his BSc degree in 2014. 6 years after, something is wrong.
Mr. President, there is a mix-up on date. Just the clerk explained to me. So the secretary should take note, sir.
Okay. Secretary, take note. Okay, any comments? Leader of the Senate will resort to the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, I rise to move the motion for this distinguished Senate to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader. Those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report of our Committee on Annex, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. We'll do approval at this stage. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman for appointment as a resident electoral commissioner representing the state of Osun in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the chair to report progress at plenary. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole consider the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as Resident Electoral Commissioner, REC, and approve the nomination of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman as Resident Electoral Commissioner, REC. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Confirmation now. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman for appointment as a resident electoral commissioner representing the state of Osun in the Independent National Electoral Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Dr. Tella Adenora Rahman is hereby confirmed as resident electoral commissioner representing the state of Osun in the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the screening of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan for appointment as Commissioner in the Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Adetumbi Olubunmi, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Minority Leader. Oh, okay. Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi, representing Ekiti North. I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee of National Planning and Economic Affairs on the confirmation of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan for appointment as Commissioner of Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. Mr. President, I so move.
I'm looking for a seconder. Senator Adenora Solomon Olamilekom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion as moved.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of our Committee on National Plan and Economic Affairs, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report. You present the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the presentation of the report of the Senate Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the screening of a nominee as Commissioner of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. I believe we have the report before us. On Tuesday, the 7th of July, 2020, this request was referred to the committee. The nominee in question on page 2 is Engineer Usman Mahmood Hassan from Kaduna State, and is a new appointment. Mr. President, we did the due diligence as listed in the methodology, and our findings shows that Usman Mahmood Hassan was born in 1962, attended secondary education, Kufena College, Usasa, Zaria, and obtained a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering in 1986. He has several work experience as captured in section 411. And at the interview, our observations and findings indicate that the nominee satisfied the requirements of section 154, 156.3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic and other prescriptions for such office. And the recommendation of the committee after a thorough examination of the nominee, Mr. President, distinguished senators, in the light of the foregoing and following the endorsement by the required number of senators from Kaduna State, that the Senate do confirm the nomination of Engineer Usman Mahmood Hassan as Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization Allocation Fiscal Commission to represent Kaduna State. Mr. President, distinguished senators, on behalf of the committee, I wish to most sincerely thank the Senate for the opportunity to serve in this regard. I so move, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for this distinguished chamber to resolve the Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolution to Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. We do approval. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Engineer Usman Mahmood Hassan for appointment as Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I like to raise a motion for the chair to resume plenary in order to report progress.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time, not reluctantly, I move that the chair do report progress.
I don't know where you got the recharge. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the chair reports progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as Commissioner of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, and approved the nomination of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan as Commissioner of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan for appointment as Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Engineer Usman Mahmoud Hassan is hereby confirmed as Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee of Land Transport of the National Transport Commission Establishment Bill 2020. Mr. President, distinguished senator will recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 14th July 2020. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Buhari Abdul Fattah, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Minority Leader, I hope you don't reluctantly second. Okay. Distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, you present your I hope you are giving us a summary here.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, Buhari Abdul Fattah Oyonot. Mr. President, you will recall that this bill is one of the bills that was sent back to us for assent, and the President made some clause and remark that we should adjust them, which it was referred to the committee after the second reading. We've done. It's 2 o'clock. They've already moved for They've already moved for extension. So, Mr. President, the list of members were already there on the first page, and then the objective of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, the legislative summary of the bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, you may recall that the National Transport Bill was exhaustively discussed in this other chamber on in the 8th Senate, after which the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation, President Muhammadu Buhari, withheld his assent and made the following observation: that the broad regulatory ambit of the proposed National Transport Commission over the operation and management of the Nigerian vast transport sector, subordinating all subsisting institutions and structure to the NTC, conflict with the area of regulatory oversight of the recent established Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Board. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, the committee carefully examined and deliberated the above observation and resolved as follows. The long title and objective of the clauses 1A, C, and each of the bill have been amended so that the provision of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018 supersede the National Transportation Commission Bill on matter of consumer protection in Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, on the second observation of Mr. President, that the bill seek under the Part 21, Clause 110, to take away the authority of Minister of Works as conferred by the Federal Highway Act and Management, direction and control of federal highways in Nigeria, vests the power on the Commission. The above submission is not the true intent of the legislature. For avoidance of doubt, the amendment to Section 2 Cap F1 2004 is reproduced below. 2. Without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1 of this section, the minister may prescribe such fee, due or charges that may be payable at any toll gate erected, equipped, maintained of this section at the tariff rate approved by the National Transport Commission, being an addition of the provision. Number 3, in the exercise of the power conferred upon the minister by subsection of this section, the minister may classify the categories of vehicles plying and passing through any toll gate covered by the provision of this act and the amount payable by such category of the vehicle. From the above, it is glaring that the only amendment of the section is the introduction of the phrase "at the tariff rate" approved by the National Transport Commission, which does not amount to usurpation of power of the Honorable Minister of Works. The amendment only puts the minister power of levying fee subject to the control of economic regulator in line with the international best practices. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, on the third observation raised by the President, which state that provision of Section 107, 3, 108, and third schedule to the bill which attempt to transfer the obligation of liability to the Nigerian Shipper Council to the Commission and transmute the Nigerian Shipper Council into National Transport Commission are misconceived, and want to provide that the Commission should be established as a new entity in view of the required skill, set expertise for the performance of the regulatory function. In the committee opinion, there was no misconception before passing the National Transportation Bill. 1. The committee is mindful of the President's order appointing the Shipper Council to act as interim economic regulator for the port on the 25th of March 2015 and issued as Nigerian Shippers Council Port Economic Regulator Order 2015 in the Federal Government Official Gazette number 34, volume 102, Government Notice number 40 of 27 March 2015. 2. The committee also considered the provision of the Nigerian Shipper Council Port Economy Regulation 2015 made by the Honorable Minister of Transportation on 22nd April 2015 and issued by the Federal Government Gazette of number 28 of 27 April 2015, copied attached. Mr. President of the distinguished colleague, for all the aforementioned points and by the virtue of the presidential appointment in 2015 that the Shipper Council, an existing agency which mandate its own port and transport economy as well as part regulation, has over the years acquired the skill, set the bill, requisite experience, pedigree, competence, and manpower to perform the role function of economic regulator for the transportation industry when National Transportation Commission Bill is enacted. Also, distinguished colleague, bear in mind that there are precedents set when the technical department of the fund NEPA became the National Electricity Regulatory Commission. Pension Office under the SGF became PENCOM. Technical Committee on Privatization and Commercialization, TCPC, became BPE. Nigeria Maritime Authority, NMA, and Joint Maritime Labor Industrial Council became Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. And of recent, the Consumer Protection Council became Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council. Recommendation. The Committee on Land Transport, after due consideration of the provision of the bill and Mr. President observation, hereby recommend as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of National Transport Commission as an independent multimodal economic regulatory authority for the regulation of transport industry sector and other related matters as so moved. Conclusion: the committee wishes to thank the Senate President and the entire leadership of the Senate and all our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve. It is our hope that the legislation will impact immensely the development of the transport sector in Nigeria. And so move. Thank you.
Before I invite colleagues for comments, can you be very specific about those areas that Mr. President made his observations, because this bill was passed in the ACE Assembly, and I think we don't have to go through this page by page. We need to know those areas that Mr. President raised his observations and how you tackled and addressed the concerns.
Mr. President, when you go to the legislative summary, we pick all the three observations, 1, 2, and 3. Page 3. You see, page 3, 5.0. Have you seen it? Yes, page 3. No, page 3. No, not that one. Page 3. The big one. Page 3. From the beginning. That paragraph, exactly. The first one is that the broad regulatory ambit of the proposed National Transport Commission over the operation and management of the vast Nigerian transport sector, subordinating all subsisting institution and structure to the NTC, conflict with the area of regulatory oversight of the recently established Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. And the amendment was the one that is below it, number 2, sir. And then the second observation of Mr. President is that the bill seek under Part 21, Clause 110 and 2 to take away the authority of Minister of Works as conferred by the Federal Highway Act in the management, direction, and control of federal highways in Nigeria, and vest the power in the Commission. The opinion, that was the observation from the President, and which we explained at number 2 that without prejudice to the general subsection 1 of this section, the Minister may prescribe such fee due to charges that may be payable at any toll gate erected, equipped, and maintained in pursuant to subsection of this section at the tariff rate approved by the National Transport Commission.
Comments? Leader of the Senate.
To consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into committee of the whole to consider the report clause by clause, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, because he has already highlighted the 3 areas that the observations were made, this is not a new bill, and I will take them clauses 1 to 20, 20 to 40, and so on and so forth, so that we're able to finish. We start from page 1. Are we all there? Those in favor that clauses 1 to 20, clauses 1 to 20, clauses 20 to 40, to page 21 to 38. Those in favor that clauses 20 to 40 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clauses 41 to 60. 41 to 60. to 60. Page 21 to 54. Those in favor that clauses 21 to 60 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 60 to 80. Clause 60 to 80. Clause 60 to 80. 80 is page 73. Those in favor that clause 60 to 80 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. 80 to 100. Clause 80 to 100. Clause 80 to 100. Is on page 85. Clause 80 to 100. Those in favor that clause 80 to 100 remain part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 101 to 113. 101 to 113. Is on page 102. Those in favor that clause 101 to 113 remain part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk. Schedule 1 to 4, which page is that? Schedule page 102. Those in favor that schedules 1 to 4 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Short title. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The long title on page 1. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the chair to resolve into plenary to report progress. So move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, thank you. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader.
Those in favor that the chair reports progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Land Transport on the National Transport Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2020 and approved as follows. Clauses 1 to 50 as recommended, 51 to 100 as recommended, 101 to 112 as recommended, the schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion that this bill be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion moved by the leader.
Clerk of the Senate. Sorry. The bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Transport Commission as an independent multimodal economic regulator authority and provide for a legal framework for the economic regulation of transport services in the industry and for other related matters 2020, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the National Transport Commission as an independent multimodal economic regulatory authority and provide for a legal framework for the economic regulation of transport services in the industry and for other related matters 2020 third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and your committee. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Education and TED Fund on the City University of Technology, Auchi, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, 1st July 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Ahmad Babakaita, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Ahmad Babakaita.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Ahmed Babakaita, representing Katsina North. I want to move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Bond on the following. 1. City University of Technology, Auchi, Establishment Bill 2020, SB 22. B. Nigerian Maritime University, Okereon Koko, Establishment Bill 2020, SB 272. And last, Federal College of Education, Giwa Kaduna State, Establishment Bill 2020, SB 121. I so move.
Can I? Senator Francis Alimikena. You can second, please.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Alimikena, representing the good people of Adenora. I rise to second this motion ably moved by the distinguished Senator Kari for Asomo. Senator Keita, distinguished Senator Keita.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we consider the report of our Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Chairman, you present.
No, I'm going to summarize. I will just go straight to it. Mr. President, you may wish to recall that the Senate, at its sitting on Wednesday, 27 November, referred the above bill, sponsored by Senator Ali Mekena Asekeme Francis, to the Committee for further legislative input. Consequently, the committee held a public hearing on Wednesday, 11th July 2018 to get public and stakeholders' input. The Senate may need to know that this bill was considered and passed on the 8th Senate. The committee, as well as the participants, agreed with the intention of the bill. Participants were all in agreement that upgrading the Federal Polytechnic Auchi to City University of Technology Auchi will particularly facilitate more access to quality and higher technical education. Mr. President, if I'm given the privilege, I'll just go to the recommendations because it's an old bill. It was considered and passed in the 8th Assembly.
So what was particularly the observation?
It's just a recommendation, sir. The committee recommended as follows, that Section 1 to 23 should be retained as in the bill. The long and short title of the bill should be retained, and schedules of the bill should be retained.
Okay, that's fast. Any comments? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion for the Senate to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report clause by clause, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, all the clauses have been retained, and this was also passed in the previous assembly, so we'll be fast with it. Clause 1 to 10. No, let me put the question now. DSP, you are in a hurry. Those in favor that clauses 1 to 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have 11 to 20. 11 to 20. 20 is on page 16. Those in favor that clauses 11 to 20 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. 21 to 30. Sorry, 21 to 24. 21 to 24. Those in favor that clauses 21 to 24 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yeah. Schedules 1 to 2. Those in favor of the motion that Schedules 1 to 2 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title. Those in favor that the short title of the bill stands for the short title stands for the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The long title on page 1. Those in favor that the long title remains part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move that the chair reverse to plenary to report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader, you are welcome back.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I second the motion as moved by the leader.
Those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund on the City University of Technology, AUCHI, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020 and approved as follows. Clauses 1 to 23 as recommended, Schedules 1 to 2 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Congratulations to Senator Francis Alimekena of Edo North. Well done, and thank you very much, Chairman, Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the sixth order of the day. Oh, I like to move a motion for the bill to be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion as moved.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the bill be now read a third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the City University of Technology, AUCHI, and for other related matters thereof, 2020, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the City University of Technology, AUCHI, and for other related matters thereof, 2020, third reading taken and passed. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Education and Third Fund on the Nigerian Maritime University of Koko Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we recall that the report of the committee was laid on this chamber on Wednesday, 1st July 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ahmad Babaketa, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion for the consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Ahmad Babaketa.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Ahmed Babaketa, Katsina North. I move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Fund on the following. On Nigerian Maritime University of Koko Establishment Bill 2020 SB 272. I so move.
Senator Adiga.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Idi Gyang, representing Plateau North. I rise to second the motion that the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund on the bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Maritime University of Kerenko, Delta State, be considered.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we consider the report of our Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say again that this was an 8th Assembly bill that has passed through the chambers of this National Assembly, only for Mr. President to decline assent. So I'll just go to why Mr. President declined assent and what are the committee's recommendations to make sure that we take care of his observations. This bill was referred to the committee on 6 February, and we've done all the necessary undertakings. The reason why Mr. President objected to the signing of the bill were this. Okay. The committee made further inquiries in order to ascertain the rationale behind Mr. President's decision to decline assent to the bill, and we found out that the problem lies with the funding provision in clause 14 of the bill. Mr. President reasoned that the proposed sources of funding for the proposed university, when approved, is likely to disrupt or negatively affect the operation of agencies whose source of funding will be arbitrarily deducted in order to fund the university. For that purpose and clarity, clause 1 to 5 of the bill provide as follows. 1% of the total annual income of Nigerian Petroleum Development Company, MPDC, 1% of the total revenue of the Nigerian Content Monitoring Board, NCMB, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, 5% of the total NIMASA revenue, and E, Petroleum Technology Development Fund. So these were the initial proposal of the bill, and Mr. President declined assent. So having taken care of that, we reviewed, the committee reviewed these observations and make a new input. The new inputs are, one, that the bill having passed through all the legislative processes in the 8th Senate and Mr. President's reasons for withholding assent hitherto accordingly resolved, it is expedient to pass this bill in order to give the required legislative framework for the university. 2, that the provision of the bill conform to the normative drafting format and its purports are in line with extant act of the same subject matter. That members of the committee were unanimous in their support for the expeditious passage of the bill, and 4, that the enactment or passage of the bill will in no small measure help in the advancement of education, especially by providing the desired manpower or expertise for the full exploitation of the maritime industry. The bill also aligned with the country's yearning for local content development. 4.0 recommendation, the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institution and TED Fund, to which this bill was referred to, having considered same, recommend as follows. That the Senate do consider and pass the bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Maritime University of Kereyon Koko, Delta State, and for related matters. Conclusion, Mr. President, I wish you to use this opportunity to thank Mr. President and the Senate and our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity to serve in the capacity, and to humbly request that the Senate do consider and pass the bill accordingly. Thank you.
Any comments? Yes, Senator Gabriel T. Suswam.
Yeah, Mr. President, my name is Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. From the observation of the President read by the chairman himself and their response, Mr. President, it does appear as if there is no response to the fears of Mr. President. Because the issue raised by the President related to the financial implication as to how the university will be funded. In his response, he didn't touch on it at all, which means that the fears of the President still subsist. And even if we pass it now, it is likely that the bill will suffer the same fate as it did before, except he has an explanation to that. Otherwise, I don't think he has responded to the observation of the President.
If you look at the bill itself on page 8, that is clause 4. Yes, page 8. I think they just check so that we're on the same page. I think they have made an effort to address. On the left is what was done before, the column on the left. Then the column on the right is what the committee has recommended now. Did you see page 4? Okay. Any more contributions? Leader of the Senate. Huh? Okay.
Sorry, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I've seen the areas where they've made the amendments, but to be sure that what we're going to do will not fall back on the same problem before, they've introduced under the same provision, C, the 5% sums in the cabotage finance fund. I'm afraid this is appearing we're going back to the same, issue. So I don't.
We can ask the chairman to explain, because they wouldn't have put this in there without an explanation. So, chairman, what is the explanation?
Mr. President, the school must be funded one way or another. And this is the truth. And among the observations, we took the list which Maritime Academy is to come under Maritime. And that's why we felt it's reasonable, because he only made a list of points which he declined, and we eliminated almost all of them. The only one that is remaining, which was reasonable in this case, was that charge from the Maritime Academy, from the Maritime Authority.
Cabotage was not in the initial listing. It's a new leader.
Mr. President, sir, I think I could see the rationale of the introduction of the cabotage fund into funding of this university. Because at the end of the day, the products of this university are going to serve in the nation's maritime infrastructure and maritime industry. And cabotage operators, are the major operators who are going to benefit from the manpower that is going to come out of this university. It was not introduced earlier, but I think if it were introduced earlier, it's one of the means of raising funds for this university. I don't think the president would have objected to it, because it's the clients of this university that are going to provide at least some support for the operations of this institution.
Well, thank you very much, leader. I think my understanding is this cabotage finance is federal government revenue. So, Chairman, I don't know what the level of engagement with people on that side, because if they said they wouldn't want what we propose in the Eighth Assembly, did they come up with any source of funding for the institution? This cabotage, were they involved?
Were involved. They attended the public hearing. The representative of private company and base and maritime, all were present. Was presented one, and some of them even presented papers on the issue. Because, like I said earlier on, you cannot have an institution without funding. So we thought that, Mr. President, because almost all establishments now want to squeeze money from organization, and Mr. President is prominent on that. So since there is the oil players, there is maritime players, we felt it's reasonable for them to fund so that we can have this manpower and expertise.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. First, just to thank the chairman. Just like he said, the university must be funded, no matter how, in one way or the other. And I do know that there is a sister institution in Oron, which is being funded by the same the system, the Kabataj, including even Nimasa. But because of fear of this bill being returned a second time, that's the reason why we decided, the committee in its wisdom decided to remove all the funding. Otherwise, as we speak now, Nimasa is also looking after the university unofficially. So because the product of that university, Nimasa stands to benefit. And so many of the maritime agencies, they stand to benefit. But because we are afraid, we just want I'm sure the committee decided to remove almost everything. Otherwise, the university must be funded in one way or the other. Thank you.
Okay, let's go with what the committee has recommended. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that this Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolution to Committee of the Whole to consider the report clause by clause say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, distinguished colleagues, this is a very familiar, in fact, a very popular and famous. Everyone who was in the last assembly knew about Okero Koko. Senator Jones Manager, the elder. So, clause 1 to 10, those in favor that clause 1 to 10 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 10 to 20, no, 11 to 20, those in favor that clause 11 to 20 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21 to 27, those in favor that those clauses stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The schedules 1 to 3, those in favor that schedules 1 to 3 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The explanatory memorandum, those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The short title, those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The long title, those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move the motion for the chamber to resume plenary for the chairman to report progress. I so move.
The minority leader.
And I so second. No.
Those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the charter report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Debt Fund on the Nigerian Maritime University of Kerem Koko, establishing etc. Bill 2020 and approved as follows. Clauses 1 to 26 as recommended, Schedules 1 to 3 as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion that the Nigerian Maritime Academy of Korean Cocoa Establishment, etc. Bill 2020 be now read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the bill be now read a third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Maritime University of Koko, Delta State, and for related matters 2020, third reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Maritime University of Koko, Delta State, and for related matters 2020, third reading taken and is passed. Congratulations, the Elder of the Senate. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman, Third Fund. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Tertiary Education and Third Fund on the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on 1st July 2020. Mr. President, we wish to invite distinguished Senator Ahmad Babakaita, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report.
So, Senator Ahmad Babakaita.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me move that the Senate to consider the report of the Committee of Tertiary Institution and Third Fund on Federal College of Education, GUA, Kaduna State, Establishment Bill 2020 SB 121. I so move.
Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Mr. President, Gabriel Suswam, I stand to second the motion for the consideration of the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education in Giwa. So second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we consider the report of our Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, present your report.
Once more, thank you, Mr. President. The Senate on 27th November 2019 at its plenary sitting debated on the general principle of the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State, Establishment Bill 2019 SB 121. After a far-reaching and in-depth deliberation, the bill was read for the second time and referred to the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Fund for further legislative action by Senate Order of Referral dated 28 November 2019 to report back its recommendation. The bill was sponsored by distinguished Senator Obasani. The bill was read for the first time on the floor in the Senate on Tuesday, 29th October 2019. Well, the objective and all the issues are the same, so I will just go to from where we conducted the public hearing. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to keep pace with the tradition of the Senate of carrying out an all-inclusive public hearing in the lawmaking process, the committee conducted its public hearing on this bill on Monday, 9th March 2020. His Excellency Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Law, the President of the Senate, declared the public hearing open. Highlight of the proceedings of the public hearing, it is pertinent to state here that stakeholders who were present at the public hearing made executive contribution in favor of the passage of the bill. Below is the highlight of this presentation. Mr. President, they were just trying at the public hearing to justify why we should have that institution there, so I will skip that for want of time. I'll just go to the recommendations. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in line with the views canvassed by stakeholders and members of the public at the public hearing and our subsequent analysis of the presentation vis-a-vis provisions of the bill in our subsequent meeting, we hereby make the following observation and finding: that the legislative intent behind the bill is laudable and commendable, as its passage by the Senate will complement the federal government effort in bringing education closer to the people. That the stakeholders were unanimous in their support for the passage of the bill, and there was no dissenting voice at all. That the establishment of the college would go a long way to address the perennial problem of shortage of teachers, which has affected the level of education in the country. And lastly, that the passage of this legislative proposal will no doubt improve the quality of lives of the people through broadening of employment opportunities and economic stroke agricultural development of the area. Recommendation that the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institution and TED Fund, to which the bill was referred, having carefully considered same, recommend as follows: that the Senate do consider and further the Federal College of Education, Giwa Kaduna State Establishment Bill 2020. In conclusion, I wish to use this opportunity to once again thank Mr. President of the Senate and our distinguished colleague for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the Senate to resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion ably moved by the leader.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, once again, this is not a controversial bill, and all the clauses have been retained by our committee. So there are 31 clauses, so I'll fast track it. Clauses 1 to 10. 1 to 10, those in favor that clauses 1 to 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Clause 11 to 20. 11 to 20. Those in favor that clauses 11 to 20 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21 to 31. Clause 21 to 31. Those in favor that clauses 21 to 31 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Schedule 1. Those in favor that Schedule 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The explanatory memorandum. Those in favor that this explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The short title. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The long title. Those in favor that the long title, which is on page 1, stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for this distinguished candidate to revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion moved by the leader.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse the plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund on the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 30 as recommended, schedule as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, and long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleague, I rise to move a motion that the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State Establishment, etc. Bill 2020 be now read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that bill be now read a third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State, and for other related matter thereof, 2020, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Giwa, Kaduna State, and for other related matters thereof, 2020, third reading taken and passed. Congratulations, Senator Obasan. You're welcome. And thank you very much, Chairman Ted Fund. Leader of the Senate, standing down all the other things.
I rise to move the motion for this distinguished Senate to stand down all other items on the order paper to another legislative day. I so move.
Former Minority Leader, do you want to second that motion? Minority Leader. No, it's Minority Leader, sorry.
I am reluctant to second the motion since the leader has a matter that is very...
Oh, okay. The former leader has a bill for second reading. Well, I'm not sure if it's already 3 o'clock. So we owe you this next time. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we stand down to consideration of the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day, say aye. Those against any, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Oh, no, it's okay. Before we adjourn, we're coming back on Tuesday. The Senate is hereby adjourned till Tuesday, the 21st of July 2020 at 10 a.m. prompt. Thank you.